Chairman. Mr. Colby, first of all, I really appreciated the time that I spent with you in my office. I appreciated your comments and thoughts. And to your family, thank you for allowing him to participate in this. It's going to mean a lot of time away, but it's the right thing to do. Mr. Colby, there's always an opportunity to look ahead and to see long-term what our needs are going to be in this country, particularly with the defense of our nation. And now that we recognize 5 different domains, air, land, sea, space, and cyberspace, we also recognize that new ways of defending our country are needed as well. Space-based assets are one of those in which, as the President's indicated, he would love to have a golden dome over our country or over the communities within our country. I don't think that's far-fetched. And in fact, I think it's something that we've really got to consider. Today, we have systems along our coastlines that protect many of our cities. Hawaii, as an example, is protected with destroyers that have radar capabilities and so forth. If the President were to be successful in creating an Iron Dome or a Golden Dome, he not only needs space-based assets, but he also needs land-based assets as well that require the use of certain parts of the spectrum for radar purposes. This committee would be shocked if I didn't bring this up with someone in front of us today that's going to have something to say about the use of the spectrum in the future. We talked about this in my office. Forcing the Department of Defense, as some people have suggested, to vacate any portion of the 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz band of the spectrum would have severe consequences on our warfighting capabilities, including homeland defense missions and force protection for our deployed forces. It's also that part of the spectrum that any land-based system would use to identify incoming weapons using radar. If confirmed, will you advocate for protecting the Department of Defense's warfighting systems that require spectrum to function optimally, including the radars that will make President Trump's Golden Dome possible?
I will, Senator.
And if confirmed, will you speak candidly with Congress on the effects of any spectrum-related policies entertained by the interagency that may have an effect on the Department of Defense's capabilities to use those portions of the spectrum that they currently control?
I will, Senator.
Thank you, sir. Sir, also in my office, you have, and I consider very courageously, you've called for the genuine focus on countering China as the principal threat to the United States and providing the commensurate resources to Indo-PACOM. In my office, we discussed the fact that in the event the U.S. and China engage in hostilities, adversaries like Russia and Iran will seek to press their own advantage in Europe, the Middle East, and elsewhere. It's for that purpose that the NDAA currently requires a review to see whether or not we're actually capable and what our needs are to actually be able to sustain a war on more than one front. I'm convinced that if we have a war on one front, we're going to have a war on 2 fronts. Can you talk about what your thoughts are on that and whether or not in your role as a planner, you have to be able to respond to adversaries on more than one front?
Well, thank you, Senator. I really appreciate that, and I fully agree with your fear, and I know the chairman and others have made this a real concern, and I applaud the committee's focus on this point. We have to have a multi-front or multi-war strategy, even though the reality is that the force planning construct of the 2022 National Defense Strategy is not a 3-war military or something. I think it's a 1 and change, if I could speak informally. So that is a real problem, because not only do I think that other hostile actors could act opportunistically, I think there's a very good chance that, for instance, if China wanted to take the cosmic roll of the dice, as Harold Brown put it, that they would induce their other partners with whom they are now much more closely collaborating to also go at the same time, perhaps even before, to draw us away. So we have to have a strategy for that. I think our own strategy is to revamp our defense industrial base, the readiness, the President's very appropriate and justified desire to restore our military strength, more capable allies. So I have a different view than Senator Hirono. I think that what's happening in Europe is actually very positive, that the Europeans are saying we need to do more for our own defense. I think people now, having dealt with the Europeans ad nauseum for many years on this kind of thing, I think there's finally an acceptance that there really needs to be more to be done.
My time will run out, but I want to make something very clear on this. If we're expecting that our European allies are going to be able to defend us in the case of having a war on 2 fronts, I don't think we can do that. I think they can help us, but I think we have to be in a position to respond to that. Would you agree?
I think we have to be able to defend ourselves, obviously, without relying on anybody else, Senator, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.